This is the tale of Cristóvão da Gama, a man who crossed deserts and faced death itself, all for a kingdom on the edge of ruin, where faith and fate would be decided in the fire of battle. I remember the heat before I remember the fear. The sun over did not forgive. It burned through armor, through faith, through flesh. We had marched for days across land that seemed cursed by God himself. Dry winds, endless dust, and the silence of men who knew they were walking toward something they could not escape. I am son of, they say my father found a path to India. I found a path to war. We came not for glory, but for salvation. A Christian kingdom was collapsing under the sword of a man the locals whispered about like a storm given human form. Villages burned behind him, churches fell, and we, a handful of foreign soldiers, were all that stood in his way. 400 men. 400 against an army that moved like fire across dry grass. At first, God favored us, or so we believed. Our guns thundered across the valleys, smoke rising like dark prayers to the sky. The enemy had never seen such weapons. They broke, they ran. And in those moments, we felt invincible. But Africa is not a land that lets arrogance live long. The rains came late. Food ran out faster than courage. Our boots split, our lips cracked. Men stopped speaking at night, saving what little strength they had left just to breathe. Some prayed, some cursed, some simply stared into the darkness already gone. And then he returned, not as a rumor, not as a whisper, but as death itself, reinforced, armed, patient. The day we faced him again, the sky was gray, as if even heaven refused to watch. Their numbers stretched beyond sight. Drums echoed across the hills like a heartbeat that was not our own. We fought. God knows we fought. Gunpowder filled the air. Steel met flesh. Screams replaced commands. I saw boys become corpses in seconds. I saw men I had shared bread with vanish under waves of enemies. And still we held until we didn't. I remember the moment I fell, not from a wound, but from exhaustion. My body simply refused to continue. Hands grabbed me, foreign voices shouted. The world narrowed and then went silent. When I awoke, I was no longer a commander. I was a prisoner. They brought me before him Ahmad Grang, the man who had broken kingdoms. His eyes studied me not with hatred, but with something colder, certainty. He offered me life, not as a soldier, not as myself, but as something else. Change your faith, they told me. Live. It was not fear I felt then, it was clarity. If I lived without faith, I was already dead. So I refused. I do not remember the blade, I do not remember the pain, only the feeling that somewhere, far away, the sea was calling me home. And yet, this was not the end, because men who survive do not always win, and men who die do not always lose. After I was gone, my brothers in arms stood again. Alongside the warriors of this land, they fought one final time and there, the storm was broken. Ahmad Gran fell. The fire was extinguished. If you remember me, do not remember how I died. Remember that we came when no one else would. 400 men against the end of a world. And for a moment, we held the line. In summary, after the campaign, the Portuguese forces, alongside their Ethiopian allies, achieved a decisive victory. Ahmad Gran was killed, and the Adal Sultanate suffered a major defeat. Ethiopia managed to maintain its independence for some time, but this conflict deepened the rivalry between Portugal and the Ottoman Empire in Africa, shaping the region's political and religious balance for years to come.